when I see your face. There's not a thing that I would change, 'cause you're amazing, just the way you
are. Hey guys, Maria here for Fitting Friday. We're gonna jump right in and get this party started. So our first question is, what should I do if my shoes are too soft for me? So, pretty simple answer to this question. The easiest answer is to try something harder. So if you're ready for new shoes, the next time you go buy a new pair, try a stiffer shank. Now, if you're already in the hardest shank of whatever brand you're wearing, then I suggest, whether you're in Gaynor, Minden, or in a traditional shoe, rechecking your fit. Make sure your shoe's not too wide and you're not losing support that way. And then a quick tip that is not particularly applicable to Gaynor, Minden, but if you're wearing traditional paper and paste shoes and you need to get more life out of a shoe that's too soft, you can always use jet glue on the shanks and the boxes. Jet glue can really help extend the life of a traditional paper and paste shoe. It just helps to re-harden or make the shank stiffer and make the box harder again, which makes it, of course, more supportive. Our next question comes from Kaylee, and she asks, how do you know which shank to choose, and also what is a good test to make sure that you have the right shank? Great question. Shanks are not always as simple as they seem. Sometimes what feels great in the store doesn't feel so great once you get into class. But basically, if you feel supported on point, and then with Gaynor, Minden, if you're able to roll through the shoe properly from the beginning, it's the right shank. Now, a good way to check if you can roll through the shoe is obviously to try and roll through the shoe. When you don't have ribbons and elastic on, it's not always that easy to do. So we made these really cool things that I'm just about to show you. We made these little try-on loops or fitting loops that are just big pieces of elastic that you slide over the shoe, pull it up as far to your ankle as you can, and that will hold the shoe on so that you can actually check the roll through. I do think that most of our authorized retailers should have these at the moment. I know we're getting some more made because there were a few stores that didn't get them. But when you're trying on our shoes, just ask to try the fitting loop so that you can test the roll through and make sure you have the right shank. Our next question is about water and if putting water on your Pointe shoes will damage them or will cause them to die faster. And this is a two-part answer. If you wear Gaynor Mindens, putting water on your shoes to help keep from slipping shouldn't be problematic because the shoes don't absorb water in the same way. If you wear traditional paper and paste shoes, putting water on your box will make them go softer more quickly. Now we're going to combine two questions because they have similar answers, which is basically, how do I know when my Gaynor Mindens are no longer supportive, / is it a myth that Gaynor Mindens don't die? Okay, so first things first, how do you know if your Gaynor Mindens are no longer supporting you? Well, you won't feel the same support that you did when they were new. So it is not true that Gaynor Mindens never die. That is a myth, and I will point you to a video. Okay, then we had someone asking if we had any tips on rethreading a drawstring that has disappeared into your shoe. So first off, as you mentioned in your question, do make sure that your drawstrings are tied and knotted properly so that they don't come untied and accidentally slip into your shoe, because then you won't have this problem. However, things happen, happens to the best of us. So if you do have this problem, you can always try to attach the drawstring to like a safety pin or a bobby pin and kind of use that to feed it through the shoe and come out the other. Also, this isn't our video, but Suffolk actually has a really helpful video on their YouTube channel on how to rethread a drawstring. Now, they're obviously using a Suffolk shoe, so the placement of the drawstring opening is a bit different, but it's a great technique. We'll link it here. Next, we have two questions from one person, and the first is, if I use your online fitting system, do I have to buy Pointe shoes right away, or can I wait? And the answer is that you can wait. So you can submit your tracing information and just ask for a size suggestion. You do not have to make a purchase at the time that you get your size suggestion back from us. And then her next question was, I currently wear the green shank, but I want to try something softer. What would you recommend I start with? So in addition to getting refit to make sure that the rest of your shoe is as supportive as possible, and you don't maybe need something narrower or a more supportive model like the sculpted fit, I suggest that dancers go one shank at a time. Now, there are very few hard and fast rules in the world of pointe shoe fitting, so if you're at a store and you try on the supple shank and it feels great, give it a try. But the shank that is immediately one softer or more flexible than the green shank is going to be the yellow bag. Okay, so we've had a lot of questions actually this week about Boxliners and Instant Wings and what the difference is, and can you use them as padding in your pointe shoes, and do they help with bruised toenails? So this is a few-part answer, and I do have a video for you as well, but first things first, Boxliners can be used as padding. They can be used on their own, or they can be used in addition to another type of really thin padding. They can be used in Gaynor Mindens or in other brands as well. And then another question that ties into Boxliners and Instant Wings, we had a question about what happens or why do I get bruised toenails when I start wearing my Gaynor Mindens without padding, and do we make something that can help with that? So the first answer is that if you want to wear your pointe shoes, Gaynor Mindens or traditional brands, without padding, then you need to have them fit without padding. If you're fit with toe pads and then you take them out, your shoes are going to be too wide and you're going to sink and you're going to get bruised toenails. Now, second part of that question, do we make things that can help with this? Yes, we do. The Boxliners and the Instant Wings are excellent choices for very thin, kind of almost no padding in your shoes. They go into the shoe instead of around your foot, so it's the sensation of not wearing padding. The pour-on foam that we use to make both of those accessories is also really good at holding its shape and holding your foot in place. There's really no movement, so when you go on pointe, you're really, really supported and you're not going to fall into the shoe quite as much as if you had nothing. Hey guys, we're back with our second round of questions, and our first question is, what does it mean if the shoe is twisting off the heel? Is it an issue with strength, or is it an issue with the shoe? So shoes can twist for a number of reasons. The most common reason that I've seen is that the fit of the shoe is actually too narrow. So double check the fit of your student shoes to make sure that they're, correct. However, I've seen a number of dancers who have kind of a bone structure in their ankle and foot that just makes a slightly twisted shape when they're on pointe. It often happens with dancers that excessively wing or pronate. Dancers dealing with kind of structural twisting, I usually recommend strengthening exercises, doming the feet, lifting the arches, making sure you're not collapsing on the inside of your ankle, and over time that will help kind of correct the misalignment. Additionally, this isn't all the time, but I have seen dancers that have like really, really high arches and therefore have a harder time pulling up out of the shoe. If they're just kind of sitting on the shoe, sometimes the shoe will twist off, but that's a rarer case. Okay, now we have a question about how you can prevent the heel of your pointe shoe slipping off the heel of your foot. First things first, double check your fit. If your shoes are too long and they're not hugging your foot properly, they'll slip off. If they're too short and there's too much tension on the heel, they'll slip off. If they're too wide, they can slip off. So make sure your fit is correct first. Also, if you're not already wearing a high heel, if you're in a low heel, switching to the high heel can be helpful and can be more secure. As of now, all of our models, so classic, sculpted, and sleek, are all available in the high heel. If you feel like you really don't want to mess with your shoe size, there are a number of other things you can do. We make heel grippers that are really, really helpful in keeping the heel securely on your foot. You can also pull your tights up over the back of your heel so that your shoe's against bare skin. Our next question is, can you cut down the sides of the shoe to better show off your foot? The short answer is yes, you can do a special order and cut down the sides of your shoes. We normally start with 1/4 of an inch or a little over 1/2 centimeter. That does add $10 to the cost of the shoe, and it takes longer to make. feel a little bit like a broken record right now, I often do on Fitting Fridays, but I also suggest double checking your fit. Sometimes a different model, like the sleek or the sculpted, can eliminate some fabric at the side and give you a cleaner look and negate the need for a special order shoe. Our next question is, how do you sew Gaynor Minden Pointe shoes if you can't sew through the shoe? Okay, so I'm not 100% sure on this one because you definitely can sew through Gaynor Mindens. I know because I have sewn many pairs of them myself. We do have a video that has some tips and tricks on sewing, and make sure you use a thin needle. It is a little counterintuitive, but using a thinner needle as opposed to like the really thick ones that come in the stitch kits is actually super helpful, and it's much easier to push all the way through the satin than trying to push through kind of a thick, dull needle. So thin needle. We have had a lot of questions about the studio bag and when the restock will be available. So we're just going to answer all those at once. The studio bag should be shipping out and in stock again next week. Okay, our next question is written. I have had the green bag for 2 months and they've already gotten softer. What should I do? Okay, I'm gonna try not to ramble too much in this one. How long your shoes last is very subjective, and I highly suggest calculating how long they last in terms of hours of use instead of in months. Gaynor Minden Pointe shoes do last longer, but they don't last forever. We normally say 3 to 5 times longer than traditional paper and paste point shoes, and traditional paste point shoes have a lifespan of approximately 10 to 12 hours. On the flip side, you know, we have a lot of literature that says 3 to 5 times longer than traditional paste shoes. That's correct. If you do the math to work that out in hours, that's like 30 to 60 hours. So again, Now, if you're looking for ways to make your shoes last longer, just in general, one of the best things you can do in traditional shoes or in Gaynor Mindens to make your shoes last longer is to buy 2 pairs and to alternate so that you give each pair plenty of time to dry out. Our next question is about the box sizes and specifically, what is the difference between the number 2 and the number 3 box? Okay, so I am back here in our stockroom, sneak peek at the Gaynor Minden stockroom, to show you guys the difference between a number 2 and a number 3 box. So I'm with the camera, and here is a number 2, here is a number 3. And I don't know how easy it is to see on camera, but they're both tapered boxes still. The number 2 box is just a little more tapered, and it's not as wide here across the metatarsals. The 3 has a little more room there. Also, if you look at the platform area, the number 2, which is here, has a slightly smaller platform than the number 3 does. Number 2, number 3. Our next question is, I've heard that Gaynor Minden is only good for people with bad feet. Is this true? What do you guys think the answer is going to be? Go ahead. We'll wait. I'll be here. No, this is not true. Gaynor Mindens are great for all types of feet. For good feet, for bad feet, for wide feet, for narrow feet. I'm using quotation marks because it's all subjective. The most important thing is finding the proper fit to support your foot. So this wall represents just a fraction of the incredible ballerinas that wear Gaynor Minden Pointe shoes. And we're worn at over 200 companies. I would definitely not say these dancers have, quote, bad feet.